This is part 3 of a 3-part series on teaching self-government in the classroom. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and child development all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're going to be carrying on our conversation about teaching self-government in the classroom by discussing how to open that conversation as a group, how to problem solve and discuss as a group, and how to help those children take ownership for their own progression and their goals in the classroom. In my Teaching Self-Government course, called the TSG Parenting course, I talk about the different economies that a family might have. And when I say economy, I don't mean money. I mean system of order or system of management. So that old definition of what economy would mean for a household. Well, you have an economy in your classroom too. There are certain positive and negative consequences that you were probably asked before you were hired as a teacher, or that you've had to come up with if you don't have a hired position, but more of a volunteer leadership position of a group. So you have a system that you follow to handle negative consequences. Well, one of our big things that we use in family structure as part of our economy is a system for problem solving. So when we have a problem that we can't solve, or we've had an incident that clearly needed more understanding, a child can earn a negative consequence to do what is called a SOTAS exercise. So SOTAS is an acronym that stands for situation, options, disadvantages, advantages, and solution. When a person does a SOTAS exercise, it does not have to be a negative consequence, but we oftentimes use it as a negative consequence so that they can have some practice seeing what other options there were to a potential problem that they had. So I have these SOTAS journals that actually help you go through the process with a person or just for yourself. As you can see, there are some charts, 1, 2, 3 charts, and then a section for writing. So up here we write the solution, then we write our options, at least 3 options, then the disadvantages and the advantages to each of those options. Then we have our solution and we debrief it afterward. There are so many people who make the same mistake again and again, and we know that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. But people do it all of the time, and that's because they just have not taken the time to see another way to handle their problem. So within a classroom setting, you can do a SOTAS as a whole group, as a classroom. You could have an individual do a SOTAS about something that they seem to be encountering a lot and not knowing how to solve the problem. You can even help them understand some of their other options if they did not know what their options were in the first place. But this is a great way to engage that prefrontal cortex and to solve problems. So when the group has a problem, take some time to discuss the problem and do a problem solving. This is going to be a better thing than just worrying about getting through all of the lists of things to do in your science curriculum or whatever it is that you happen to be teaching. All right, we're going to talk about how to meet together as a group, some of the ground rules we want to have, how to even help the parents engage in goal setting for the students if you happen to be working with young children. But if not, this would also work for an individual to work on their goal setting as well. And then we are going to be talking about how to set all of this up. But first, click that subscribe button now so that you do not miss any of the other videos on this channel related to self-government. That could be the next tip that you need most. So I have 4 journals. I just showed you one about the SOTAS journal. This is one that's called a family meeting journal. But honestly, you could use the same structure, not for a family, but for a classroom. So you could have a time where the classroom meets together, maybe once a week, maybe every other week, where you have a time where you have a quick meeting, no longer than 20 minutes on the meeting, and you discuss issues related to your group of people. So this family meeting talks about the timing that you want to do, who leads the meeting, what announcements that the group needs, what topics that you might need to discuss in order to fix problems for the group or come up with some solutions for the group as well. So having a regular meeting is a powerful way to get everyone invested as the group. Now, you might have to have some ground rules when you're meeting together as a group, because some people like to do attention seeking, like to zone out, or just hate the whole idea of a meeting. As soon as you bring it up, they check out. So what are you going to do to help them get invested? Let's talk about that. So to help people get invested in the meeting, we need to start by telling them, hey, we're going to have a short meeting every so often, or every Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m., whatever it is. And you say, and the meeting will literally only take 20 minutes. Whew, that gives everybody a sigh of relief right there. It's only going to take 20 minutes. Yep. And if we accomplish something in our 20 minutes, great. If we don't accomplish something in our 20 minutes, then oh well, we've wasted our 20 minutes. Either way, it will always take 20 minutes. That right there makes it so the person who likes to power struggle and try to seek negative attention and throw off your meeting or check out actually feels like, what's the point in trying to do anything, because technically it's only going to be 20 minutes. Make sure that you're as good as your word and you set a timer. It only goes longer than 20 minutes if the people vote to let it go longer. And when they do vote, they vote for exactly how much time they feel like they are going to need to let that meeting go over. Also, you tell them everybody gets the opportunity to lead this meeting. It is not going to just be the teacher leading the meeting. The teacher might lead the first meeting, but then after that, everyone will get a chance to go through the form. Even if the people can't write yet, if they're not independent writers, they can do the words that lead the meeting, and then the teacher or somebody else can write down the minutes from the meeting on the form. So that is very powerful. If they know they are going to be in a leadership capacity leading the meeting, they'll start respecting the other people that are leading the meeting just a little bit more. And if you think that there's one person that's going to be particularly disrespectful, you might want to have them be one of the first people that gets to lead a meeting, so they get to understand what it feels like to be the person trying to have the meeting carry on its desired course. Then you talk about exciting things, you praise people in the meeting. You also then discuss the issues that need to be brought up as a group, but you do it always in a very civilized way. So you prepare the group. Hey, in this group we discuss about things, but we don't argue. We always keep things very civil. We take turns and share our opinions, and then we take votes. And if our vote doesn't win, we accept the no answer. That's just how it goes. Sometimes we don't always get our way, but we can always revisit a topic if we feel like something that we voted for previously is not really working out. We can bring it back to the table. You can set up motivation systems for the group, like set up, hey, we're going to have a party if we all, get our stuff turned in on time for this big project or something like that. Or you can also set up consequences for certain things as well. You can let the class determine what they think some of the consequences should be. Now, my recommendation for you is to keep it simple. So please consult the family economy section of my book, A Parenting a House United, because in there I talk about a lot of different ideas for creating an economy, and those may be helpful for you. If you get too creative or too punitive or too emotional in any of those negative consequences, they actually could have a negative effect on the group, and we want them to have a positive, uplifting effect for the group. Now, when the group has determined ahead of time how they are going to be corrected, what the consequences are going to be, then they're more likely to accept those consequences, self-correct, and self-motivate and move along. Now, speaking of motivation, goals are a big part of motivation. This book here is called A Mentoring Journal. Now, a teacher could have a mentoring journal for each student if they have regular meetings with each of their students. But more than likely, you'll want the parents to understand how to run a mentor meeting with their students. So just have a little parent training, give them some of these forms where this child can schedule out when they're going to do certain things for the class, and you may add a few different things than are listed here because this is overall for the parent, but actually honestly, there's spiritual goals, academic goals, personal goals, social goals. These are all things that are important to the student. You don't have to know everything that's in this book, just the parent does. And talking about spiritual goals is totally on the mark for parents and will help the whole experience of the child accomplishing their goals. So in here, they check up with the parent or the teacher once a week and set new goals or things that they want to accomplish. Now, if they don't follow through with their goals, okay, that's just what happens. They accept the consequence for not following through with their goals. But if they set a commitment, that's a little bit different, and there might be negative consequences that are attached to commitments. Children who are a little bit older and then, of course, into adulthood can set commitments just fine. But when it comes to little children, I'd probably stick to just goals at first, just to help keep them getting excited. So when they meet, it's a one-on-one meeting. There's not necessarily a time frame, but I would say at least 15 minutes. Somewhere between 15 minutes and 45 minutes is usually ideal for these types of one-on-one meetings with a student. So you determine as a teacher, can you do it? I know I've led groups or I've taught groups where I have taken time each semester to meet twice with each student. And it does take a lot of time, but boy, is it worth it when I am right there in the minute thinking, what does this class need? It helps so much when I know what some of their goals are for the semester. But then they meet with their parents every other week besides the one time that they met with me. So having the parents being involved in the goal setting is key to success. I should also mention here that if you don't have parents involved because the students are older, maybe they are adults or parents themselves, then keep in mind they should go through the same process for themselves. What are their goals and commitments? They need to set them up on a regular basis. Just the act of setting a goal or commitment changes the outcome for a person. Deliberate action leads to increased success and self-government. So encourage them to set those goals. Some people are very resistant to setting goals. They don't follow through with their goals a lot. Help them come up with small goals that will baby step them toward a big goal if they happen to be like that, and maybe help them have a system of checking up with another person so they accomplish their goals. In a group of adults, you could have 2 adults or 3 adults that are actually a group that report to each other on a weekly basis on how they're doing on their goals. This might help them stay the course. All of the things that we have talked about in this 3-part series should be pre-taught. They are all information that you teach somebody before you take action. So the meetings pre-teach for future success. The SOTAS exercises pre-teach for future success. The vision prepares everybody for where they're going as a group. And the skills are all taught before they are ever used. Pre-teaching is one of the #1 principles within a principle. So it's principle in the principle of self-government. You cannot self-govern yourself if you don't know where you're going and how to get there. You have to have a plan. That's where pre-teaching comes in. So if you can keep a pre-teaching mindset as an instructor and leader of a group, then you will actually wear that mantle of leadership. They will see a person that is organized, even if you think you're not organized. If you know those structural pieces, you can roll those things out, keep the communications going well, the problem solving going well as a group, even if you have to, copy something right before class or whatever it is, you actually still are organized because there is nothing that you can't handle if you know how to communicate. This lays the foundation for all education and will truly transform your educational environment. If you have enjoyed this video series, then I recommend going to teachingselfgovernment.com and go to some of the audio trainings that I have there. There is one that is called Dare to Take Command. Dare to Take Command is all about your own personal self-government journey. You may need that for your students, maybe even for yourself. There are a lot of other things there as well that you could use if you teach young children: charts, cue cards, other helps. Learn more because we have just brushed the surface of the self-government topic, but it can truly be transformational for your classroom or your entire school or workplace environment. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com. I'll see you there.